this second church I got involved in had the idea that the beast 666 was written on the Pope's mitre. Now that might well be so, I don't know whether that is true, but that is what we were taught by this other church. The 666 was on the Pope's mitre. Personally, I've never seen it, but then again, I've never met the Pope, so. And that was second time. Now thirdly, 2 days ago, we were told that the beast is in us. But then John had a much better explanation as to why the beast is in us. And that explanation, John, do you have information on that, literature, so that I can see what you actually mean by 666? I knew what you were saying, but it's already left my brain again. And that's why I reckon body electronics should start with the brain.
Let's take a look at the carbon structures. A carbon atom has 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. If you take and add hydrogen to that carbon atom, you build up these, what they call a organic substance, organic compounds. And all organic compounds are based upon a carbon atom. So our bodies are considered to be carbon-hydrogen structures. Now, the greater the amount of hydrogen, just like a hydrogenated oil, if I can get over into that end of it on fats and so on, it makes it into something which is almost indestructible. And in the human body, the melanin protein complex, which is a carbon-hydrogen matrix, it is almost indestructible chemically, and the scientists who have worked with it say it cannot be destroyed by any known means. Stanford University has found, and this has been, it hasn't been necessarily suppressed, but it hasn't been brought out fully, in that when you have enthusiasm or joy or bliss, this carbon-hydrogen complex, or the melanin protein complex, begins to break down due to a fact that there is a hormone that I don't know the name of yet, which comes from the pineal gland. Only when joy or enthusiasm is expressed. And when I found that out, I was over the moon. Because when we go through the emotional scale and come up through the pain, enthusiastically over the pain, we see the eye color changes. We see the various black moles on the body start to disintegrate. We see the color of the skin lighten up and so on. And that's right, and the hair comes back in. But what we're looking at here is that the secret to the whole stimulus response mechanism at the cellular level of every single human being, which has been thoroughly researched by Toronto, by UCLA, and also in London. The research has been done. And what they're trying to do is trying to develop this melanin protein complex to develop supermen who are fully conditioned, who are literally perfect in every aspect. This is what they're working on now. I'll tell you this, they're going the wrong direction. The whole thing is when you bring a person's memory back and they can experience on the mental level that which exists on the physical level with enthusiasm, then this little hormone that's been discovered that they don't know much about, but in response to enthusiasm, this is generated from the pineal gland, and this will break down, and the only thing that they know of which will chemically break down the melanin protein complex. They don't know how it happens. It's perhaps it happens on the mental level, and then the physical level follows suit. but this is how they explain it from a physiological point of view, that there is this hormone that is the only thing known which can break down this so-called indestructible melanin protein complex based upon the carbon-hydrogen principle. Now, if you want to go into great detail on that, oxygen creates a condition to also help break this down. And so the more oxygenated the body is, then the better that melanin protein complex is able to be broken down, where the hydrogen atoms, which are attached to the carbon molecule, okay, causing the perpetuation of this melanin protein complex, which is the stimulus response mechanism which holds us in this emotional bondage on the physical level. When that oxygen begins to activate in the body in response to enthusiasm, then the thing starts breaking down beautifully. I do not believe, and I'm just telling you what my belief system is, I don't believe that this can be done without a certain degree of nutrient saturation, including oxygen, that the body may break down properly to begin with. But an answer to about 8 or 9 questions that I have in my briefcase, and this is the time to do it now. When you reach a certain stage, don't run off. When you reach a certain stage of mental or spiritual growth, and the hormones are all working as a catalytic agent to aid in the transmutation of one element to another within the human structure. There are some people who appear to be able to take water and air, and from those two particular elements, activated by sunshine, somehow, through the transmutational process, they appear to be able to manufacture every single element in their body that they need for survival. And some people seem, and I want to tell you this, what I have seen. 20 years ago, we'd have to saturate the body. Well, let's go back 35 years ago. People would have to be fully saturated before we'd get any results at all with body electronics. And then on the STO point, would take and move the pinch test down this far, and we thought we were creating miracles on people with strokes and what have you. And that would be on a 4 or 5 hour session. And then the next session, which would take about 2 or 3 days later, after they got the minerals back in their body again, we'd go down through the body this further more on a pinch test. Now today, we are having on the STO point held, and within 10 or 15 minutes we have feeling all the way down to the fingers and toes. And everyone's taking that for granted, when years ago, 20 years ago, we had to work at it and work at it and work at it, and in order just to get a little feeling down through the body over a long period of time. And we're finding that the nutrient saturation that we had to put people under, say, 20 years ago, today, people seem to be able to get the feeling down through the body with the restoration of the nerve supply in a much shorter time on less nutrients. Are you following me? Meaning that there's a morphogenetic resonance taking place where evidently the hormones are working more effectively because of the morphogenetic resonance, where people are able then to heal more quickly, and the biological transmutation of the elements are beginning to take place more quickly, requiring less nutrients. Now this is something I just want you to consider. I know a lot of people say, well, they can do it without the nutrients, and they try to do it and nothing happens. Even today, nothing happens unless they have the nutrients. But after they get the nutrients, the results are much more rapid than ever before in my life that I've ever seen. Now, does this answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
You sure?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sure.
I would like to just talk to you about the fact that you mentioned about the smell. Because I've had experiences with entities and smells. And you said that the smoke smell came into the room. Oh, okay. We had this one incident where John and I were living in this granny flat of these people, and I had prepared some fish the day before, and the day afterward there was still this fish smell in the granny flat. And so, I felt kind of embarrassed, because this lady, I didn't want to leave fish smell all through her granny flat, so I start washing the tea towels, I washed the sink down, I washed the stove down, and then I couldn't get rid of this fish smell. So the next day passed, and I washed everything down again, I scrubbed the whole kitchen, everything, and then still the fish smell was there. Very, very strong. So finally, I brought the couple in and I said to them, I said, by any chance, is there anything in your life that you connect with this fish smell? And the man said to me, yes. I had a nanny when I was very small that I loved very, very dearly, and she used to smell like fish. She was an island lady. And she had a fish smell about her. And so then, I explained to them, well, it's the spirit of this woman, I believe, is here in this granny flat of yours. She's still here. She's still here with you. And I asked him, I said to him, would you like to release her? Would you like to let her go? So, well, at first he said yes, and then he said, all right, kind of reluctantly. So I gave the command. The smell immediately went. The whole granny flat was just smelling great. Okay, we went out for a couple of hours. We came back. Bam, the fish smell is back. So then I called him in again, and I said to him, look, do you really want this woman to go or not? And he just broke down in tears, and he said, I just love this lady. She took care of me when I was a kid. She was there for me. She was there for me all the time. She was, just this loving person that he has this connection with. And I said, well, do you want her to go? And he said, no. And so the fish smell remained.
And she remained, because times would happen when he is under the influence of alcohol, which was every night. Then this little nanny would come to him under the influence of alcohol and stroke him and care for him, and he would see her because she was in his energy field. This is how strong it was. And the fish smell would always accompany her when she was there. But the fact remains, because we invaded his space and tried to get rid of the nanny, fair enough, then that fish smell was continually in all of our things in that little granny flat until we moved out. And I thought to myself, that's interesting, but we couldn't get rid of the smell until after we moved out, then everything left. And it's a little embarrassing sometimes, when you haven't had any fish, and then you smell like this fish. And the fish is in your clothing, it's in your nostrils, it's everywhere you go, you've got that fish with you. And finally, after we left the nanny alone, she's happy now, because we're no longer a threat to her, and the fish smell is gone.
And the other thing I'd like to say to you is that I'm so happy that you are praying. We don't have to be in church to pray. We could pray at any moment of our life, anywhere, everywhere. God is everywhere.
Never too late to find out.
What do the scriptures say? You are the temple of God. It's not in a rock edifice. The human body is the temple of God. And this is what we have to learn to honor. Some people say this is pure humanism and absolute heresy to say that this body is a temple of God. But these people who say that don't believe the Bible that they're professing to believe in.
Thank you. Incidentally, if anyone wants to see the grave of Tutankhamun that John mentioned earlier on, it's in Egypt, in Cairo. I was there about 7 years ago, and now I'm a bit skeptical about that one as well, because they say it's in such and such a place. I think it's across the bridge in Geezer, I think it's called. But when you actually go in there, you're away from it as far as from here to that table, and they say he lies in there, but you can't actually see that body. So I'm skeptical about it, whether he's there or not. Thanks very much.
Okay, I just want to say one more thing. Not for you, but to Alex. And I just want to say, regarding the rose, I did realize how precious the rose was. And I have always advocated, and you can see on the other tapes, I have always advocated getting close to nature and to really becoming close to the earth and getting as close to nature as possible within a practical reality. And I've always advocated that, and I believe that the rose, is symbolic of that, and I think I just needed to put in a plug for Mother Earth.
Graham first, and Kevin.
What we've been talking about has just triggered something in my brain. These brown spots that people get on the back of their hands that are called liver spots, that's an indication of the build-up of melanin protein. True? Well, there's a manufacturing chemist called Eagle Pharmaceuticals that claim that they have a substance that'll break that down and take it out of the nervous system. I've got it on tape somewhere, so I'll let you know what's on it when I get home.
From a physiological point of view, when you have incomplete carbohydrate digestion, you then have a process which they call glycosylation. Now, in your sheet, you have something there on glucose, right?
Did you all get that?
You should have a sheet on glucose.
On glucose? Has that been handed out, Jennifer?
Has anybody seen that? Pardon me? That hasn't been done yet? It's on the bus and it's coming up here to you. Now you make sure you have some more stuff for your folder. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to cover everything, but read it, and I'm sure that the next 2 years will be well taken care of time-wise. But when you have insufficient glucose digestion, you have these highly complex glucose configurations, chemical configurations, which will cause, in part, a cross-linking in the collagen in what we call the protein molecules in the skin, and it forms this dark pigmentation gradually. Now, when the body has sufficient secretion in the pancreas of your protein digestant and the carbohydrate digestant, then this, under the influence of niacin, to bring it clear out to the cellular level, will digest out that particular glycosylation or aging spots on the body, which they call liver spots, and these completely go away. And we've had a number of people wherein they're covered with these black moles and liver spots and whatnot. Some people call them freckles and so on. These completely go away under the onslaught of the gradual increase of the activity of the pancreas to where it begins to function normally. Until that time, we have to correct long-standing enzyme deficiencies in the body, and we get that like from kiwi fruit, we get that from the mature green papaya, which may be yellow. You know, a green papaya means just before it gets ripe. And there you have the maximum amount of the protease. And there's also your amylase in there, there's lipase in there. The papaya is one of them, or the pawpaw, is one of the most powerful fruits you can have. Now, did you get the pawpaw handout? Okay, that you'll find exceedingly interesting with taking the pawpaw leaves and boiling them up and getting an extract out of that pawpaw leaf, which will be about 1,000,000 times more powerful than any other cancer agent you can find. This is an old Aboriginal recipe, so that is in your folder, and that information is pure gold. Yes?
I collect articles of the papers, or I do research, so to say, and I got an article. It's a farmer here in Queensland. He have an address on it, but I can't give it in the moment, I don't have it. He give it out to all the people who have cancer. He sent you out a packet of pawpaw leaves to cure cancer. And I have this leaflet and give it always out to people where I know and need it. Thanks.
Now, we have had over the years a large number of people who used to have cancer. And on a physiological level, the cancer has disappeared. The problem is that we still have a blueprint in the emotional body that we may not have dealt with, or belief systems and thought patterns and resistances on the mental body that we haven't dealt with. And if this indeed is the case, then even though from a physical point of view we have kept the cancer in abeyance, so to speak, if we don't follow a good program of nutrition continually, then that blueprint will take over and the cancer will be reformed in the body. And so I want you to understand that even though from a physical point of view the cancer may be gone, if the blueprint hasn't been taken care of by a change of consciousness and a release of the suppressed emotionality, then the cancer can return. Is this clear? Kyle, you got something, sir? You go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I've covered one of my 4 points. Shall we go on, or?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
But is this question relevant to what we've already covered?
Yeah.
Give me that mic.
Ada, come around.
My question is to do with niacin and niacin flush. I have used niacin and I have received the flush, but I was wondering what is the purpose of doing that, and also how often one should do it, once a week, twice a week. And thirdly, I found that after I've done the niacin flush a number of times, I felt I was depleted of iron. Would that be true?
On the niacin flush, I just don't want to get into that here because that's a long story to fully explain it, and I think the information is pretty much on all the tapes. Ada? It's on the tapes, I'm pretty sure. Is it on the Milburn tapes that all of you supposedly listen to? I think there's a lot of... Ada, have you listened to the Milburn tapes? You listened to them. You should have done that before you got here. Okay, you go home and you listen to it. All the niacin information is on there. I don't really want to take the time for that today. Tom.
You were just talking about protein, John. Now, is albumin powder? Is albumin powder from white eggs? The white, yeah, albumin powder to supplement protein? Yes, the white.
The most perfect food that I know of, if you're going to have an animal product, will be the complete egg. The yolk is not complete without the balance of the white, and the white is not complete without the balance of the yolk. And a poached egg, the temperature has not reached such a degree that you've destroyed the egg, and a hard-boiled egg is still within the acceptable temperatures. It is better to eat the raw egg.
Another one too is rock dust. People putting it in water, stirring it up and taking it without decanting it, letting it stand for 24 hours. Now, is it okay to take it like this, or is it more effective when they take it like this?
By decanting it, you have a very small amount of active colloidal minerals. The silicate content of the rock dust, when put into a acid environment in the stomach, breaks the silicate down into your colloidal material, just like they put the rock dust into an acid slurry, and when they spray it on the cane fields, and it breaks it all down into a colloidal material.
All?
Perhaps not all, but perhaps because the silicate is broken down by the acid, the large majority of it. Now, this is wherein, if you decant it, you frankly don't get enough minerals. We had a man with the government agency in New Zealand do a complete test on the decanted rock dust, and there's very little mineral in there as compared to what would happen as if the acid would break the mineral down in the system. Hold on. Now, we've had it tested here in Australia by a gentleman that has a $500,000 piece of equipment. And after he fully tested the rock dust, he found out that it is totally non-toxic to humans to take it with the regular, to take it like a spoonful of it, put it in water, drink it right down without decanting it. Now, at first, we were considering the safety factors of decanting it. But some people haven't done it that way. They have just taken the rock dust down, and they have had wonderful results with point holding and no obvious side effects from it. No, the healing crisis, yes. Some people say, well, you get constipated. Well, I'll tell you what, under a healing crisis, if you have been constipated in the past, then the constipation will return in reverse order, and you'll get terribly constipated for a while. Therefore, you have to do what you have to do to keep that thing open and flowing. And for people who have been constipated, they will have problems during a healing crisis.
In the past, the size of the particle was much bigger also. So you'll see on the tapes where we were advocating decanting it. But now they've broken down the particle to such a small size that it's like almost like powder. So you really don't have to decant it anymore, because it's pretty much colloidal. You just put it in the water and it's pretty much colloidal now.
That's exciting. Yes, it is exciting.
Talking about the Min Plus and grain fields together, or decanted Min Plus in grain fields with the acid grain fields, would that pre-digested grain fields be liquid then also help pre-digest the Min Plus?
The grain fields is already pre-digested. When you take the lactobacillus liquid, it's a very low pH or highly acidic. And this helps to break the Min Plus down, there's no question about it. But it creates within the body an alkaline condition, not an acid condition, as some people have said, because they say, well, if you take acid in the body, it's going to cause an acid condition. That's true with unripe oranges. But ripe oranges also have an acid in that, but that creates an alkaline condition in the body when you take a ripe orange. And the grain fields will create, even though it has a very low pH factor, will actually create an alkaline condition in the body.
No, my question is, would the Min Plus be absorbed more readily if it was put in the grain fields first?
The answer is you have an acid condition there. The acid condition will break down the silicate form of the Min Plus, like I mentioned before. It breaks it down into a colloidal form. Okay? Okay, but if you are a question on that, and if you have doubts on it, what I have used for 35 years is the one from Enzymes International, where they have taken the colloidal material, put it through a freeze dry, and you get the little capsules called the coenzyme minerals. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as a colloidal material is concerned, you can't get it any better. Okay? It's expensive. But if you can afford it, I would get the coenzyme minerals because it's 100% colloidal. It was colloidal before they froze dry, before it went into the freeze drying process.
Whatever you do, do not open those capsules up. I mean, the taste of those minerals are just incredible. And I did that one day, and you just can't take it down. So you have to take it in the capsule.
Some people like it.
Do you, Kyle?
Regarding the coenzyme minerals, I've had a lot of people ask me what would be a good dosage. Could you comment on that, please?
What would what?
A good dosage for the coenzyme minerals?
Okay. If you were to take the actual liquid minerals in an undiluted state, okay, I would say 6 ounces 3 times a day in a glass of juice, okay? And you find out who your friends are wherever you go. The green fog is tremendous.
John? It's very expensive to import the liquid.
Very expensive.
It's heavy.
But put on a burn or something like that, which I have done with many people who had severe burns. You put that on them and just keep them soaked in the burn. Within half an hour to 45 minutes, the burn is totally gone, and there is no sign that the person had ever been burnt with boiling water or scalded steam or what have you. And that we've had wonderful results with it. And I would definitely recommend they have it in gallon jugs. And to be on the safe side, the stuff will last indefinitely. But if you keep that as in your medicine chest, so to speak, as a material that you can put on burns and so on, the stuff works absolutely beautifully. Okay. Last question. Pardon me?
They want the dosage
On the capsules, say 2 capsules 3 times a day would be sufficient.
May I change the subject?
Pardon? Of the coenzyme minerals? No, I'm sure you're not done yet. You're still medium rare.
The 2 capsules 3 times a day, is that just as a maintenance? What about for heavy point holding like what we're doing at this intensive?
We've had people take up to 20 capsules and fry everyone for several hours. And it's a something. How many did you take?
I took 20 coenzymes and about another 40 of everything else put together that night.
And that fried everybody. That's correct. And but I'm not for excess.
Okay.
I would be more for a consistent pattern of a real steady improvement rather than looking for the quick fix.
Okay, the reason I ask this is because some people are cycling on the table, and the way I look at it is, isn't it better to slightly overdose to get the point holding finished rather than to cycle?
What kind of happens is when you take extra minerals while you're on the table, you're into a marathon of 8 to 10 hours then. And people are human, and they have to eat, or their hypoglycemia gets the best of them. There is a pattern here of you can't do it all in one day. Pick up the next day what you didn't get done, and don't try to go for a full program which leaves everybody totally devastated. And you have some people will take minerals and then they'll slip out to the loo and take a whole bunch more minerals, come back in, and the point holders, after a while, they're hungry, their hypoglycemia is getting the best of them, and we need to take care of feeding the animal.
So just find the balance there somewhere.
There has to be a balance here somewhere. You can't do it all at one time.
Thank you.
We want to, don't we, Gabby?
Also, you could supplement with the powder Min Plus with the capsules too, for expense reasons.
Now, you do have some people that don't seem to take any minerals at all after a certain point in their progression. And they burn everybody up because their hormones are working good, and the body will manufacture the minerals through proper breathing and proper water consumption, and then the body will manufacture exactly what it needs. So you have that extreme also.
2 things. First of all, quick one. I would like a living water pendant. How do I get one of them?
The living water. You call Ian Morrison.
No, just a pendant. Just like for a start. Yeah?
He has it all.
Oh, great.
You call Ian Morrison. I think the number was given to you on that sheet that was passed out.
Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Second thing is... Thanks.
Are those the grander? Okay. Hank and Sydney, do you handle those, Hank? Okay, talk to Hank. Pardon me? Global Vision has it?
They're everywhere.
There you have it.
Second thing.
Are you a distributor? Is Global Vision a distributor for the grander water products? All right. Is that something just happened? Oh, okay.
Second thing, total like way off what we've been talking about this morning, but I can't stop thinking about it. It goes back to when I was on the table yesterday. I was having my L5 and one of the points in my I can't really remember at the moment, in my foot held. And Helena was digging her elbow into my back for over a couple of hours. The burn started probably only 3 minutes or so after we started holding on me yesterday. Now, I've never been much of one to think about past lives and all that. I mean, yeah, sure, think about it, but I guess apathetically, not as myself, everyone else maybe, but Not through, disbelief or anything, just never have. Now, 20 minutes, half an hour into this point holding session yesterday, I started to feel a little strange because I was in a lot of pain. But Helena, I think, was in where are you there? Quite a bit more. And she started having these visions that lasted probably well over an hour.
Who had the vision? While you were holding points on him.
Yeah. We were both in burning, searing agony, and that's the first time I found out what you meant, Dr. John, by burning, searing pain, both of us. And I got into a past life memory that Sam didn't have, but he said, "Oh, my chest is aching," and I said, "I know," because I could see what was happening to him in the chest area in the past life.
Okay, may I make a suggestion to you?
Yeah, I didn't tell him.
Okay, good.
He said, "I know."
You may be fully aware what's going on in that person's energy field, and you're experiencing it all on your body, in your mind, in your emotions. You wait until the other person unfolds like a lotus and comes to that realization of what's within them. And you did that.
I did that. I didn't
Good.
tell him anything that was going on because the facilitator said he's unfolding, let him go with it. So he just said, "I've got pains in my chest," and I just said, "I know." Yeah. But I told him when we'd finished the point holding, I said, "Look, this is what I saw and what I went through. Do you relate to that?"
Good.
And if I may, I'll tell you what Helena said she saw, because this is what just...
Now, did you see it?
Not then.
Then it has absolutely no value to you.
But this is where it does, because ever since I was talking about it, and then afterwards yesterday and last night when I was asleep and this morning when I've been sitting here, every time I think about it, I get shivers up my back, and I've had these little pictures running through my head of what Helena was seeing, and it just...
And this is how we can influence one another if we talk about it.
So that I may be totally fooling myself.
You may be totally experiencing the energies that Helena is experiencing. And by suggestion, we start having these little bits and pieces running through our head that may or may not be valid. If you could write one thing down and stick with it so that you are never deceived. First of all of your past lives and everything we've ever done is right here and now. It's all here. Our dharma and our karma. It's all here. But, as far as this physical body is concerned, work within a framework of reality and certainty. No speculation, no consideration as to what it might be, because we get off in the realm of speculation and we've lost the plot. If we believe a lie, which may be somebody else's energy that we're experiencing, we say that's us, we've lost the plot. Now, I got onto this years ago when I met 10 different people who all claimed to be the reincarnation of Queen Elizabeth. Now, they believed that they were literally Queen Elizabeth. And they believed it with all their heart and with all their sincerity. And I thought to myself at that time, well, either all 10 of them are deceived, or nine of them are deceived, and the other person may be the real McCoy. But frankly, at that time, I did not want to be one of those deceived people by believing a lie, and so I decided to work from that time on within a framework of reality and certainty, and not speculate, not consider. You can have all the dreams you want, but discount them temporarily, put them on the shelf, put a label on it, and work with this body in this time and this space, and we don't get ourselves off into a mess. I've seen lots of people go off into a mess of delusion, and they lose the plot, and they're no longer effective in society as we know it. And they're off by themselves in their own dream world, looking at their whole mass of reincarnated lifetimes, and they can't mow the grass on their yard, they can't take care of their kids, They can't honor their mother and their father. They can't take care of their own digestive system. And I say, let's come back to reality and deal with within a framework of reality and certainty. And then, after you have a complete memory over this lifetime, and after you have gone through the birth trauma, and after you have a full memory of your 9 months or less in your prenatal state, then perhaps you start slipping back with a clarity of memory of the past that you can document, and then you're working within a framework of reality and certainty, and you're not getting deceived by speculation. I know a lot of people that are looking at thousands of past lifetimes, but they can't remember one bit back before the age of 10 years old. And I think that's kind of contradictory. And so let's be really careful on that. Because I know a lot of people, I think I could put 20 people down that I have met over the years that, for example, are Joseph of Arimathea in biblical times. And they believe it with all their heart, and that they're Joseph of Arimathea, and there's no doubt about it. And I scratch my head, and I say, what do we do? You know, and no matter how sincere a person is, we get caught up in these pictures, we believe these pictures as reality, and yet we have no way of differentiating between what is real and what isn't.
Yeah, so with point holding, stick to what's happening in this lifetime. Get that done with first.
In the meantime, some of these things we experience are really exciting. It's just better than television.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Can I take 2 minutes?
You've got it.
Thank you. This is very new to me, this kind of, you know, what I'm thinking about, so I just want to get it out. The other reason it seems to sort of ring true is because as to the kind of person or the people that we were in this vision that Helena was having, she didn't even tell me. I knew. I asked her if this was sort of who we were, and she said yes. Now, in this, we had darker skin, darker hair, we were both male, and we were warriors, and we were tortured and killed. Now, I was wondering, first of all, it was remarkable that a person that could be holding my points, it just so happens that we were, you know, sort of comrades, friends in a previous life.
Chances are very good that might have been so.
Right, and the warrior part, I was kind of thinking, well, hang on, you know, and I sat down at lunch yesterday and I was talking to a few people about it, and they said, well, Sam, take a look at yourself. You wear an arrowhead around your neck, you've got a tribal tattoo on your arm, you're covered in scars. My sister brought up that since I was 4 or 5 years old, which is true, I've collected every kind of knife, sword, spear I could get my hands on.
I have some people you might recognize when you meet them.
I don't know, it just seems to fit.
Okay, let me state this a little bit more clearly. These are questions that I asked a long time ago and was kind of excited about as my memory started improving. And my spiritual teacher told me, he says, John, do not judge on spiritual evidence alone. And this will be a safeguard that will carry you through a lot of hard times and prevent a lot of deception. Okay? Consider that. Just simply do not judge on spiritual evidence alone. We can get rather excited over, you know, meeting somebody and having that close esprit de corps, so to speak, camaraderie. I don't question that for a second. But yet after that's all over and done with, and the chemistry is very beautiful to meet somebody again that we've, you know, may have had experiences with in the past, but bring it right back down to living in the now and dealing within a framework of reality and certainty.
Thanks.
And then have fun with the pictures. Fair enough. Yes, sir. Robert, you're next. Come on up after him.
don't know if you heard of Dolores Cannon. Dolores Cannon, a lady, she's into hypnotherapy, she was, and she worked at a technique where she takes people back not just to past life, but lives in between lives, while they are in this spirit world or the outer world. And she too had problem with this, having 500, Queen Elizabeth and so and so. And the explanation she gives is that those people, while you're in the spirit world, you got access to the Akashic records. And certain people choose to go through the lives of other people because they feel they got something to learn, and they can do that without incarnating. So when they say, I am Cleopatra, they do have a certain right to say they are Cleopatra because they have experienced fully Cleopatra's life in the spirit world. That's her explanation. She's got a book out, or she's got several books out.
But not in the physical world, sir.
Not in the physical
And
world.
this is where, by the definition of truth, truth is a perfect knowledge of things as they are. It's a perfect knowledge of things as they were. And it's a perfect knowledge of things that are going to occur in the future. Now, if we take something from the past and say we were so-and-so, then we are no longer dealing in the realms of truth because it simply is not so. And we have to be very careful of that because truth is an absolute knowledge of things as they were.
No, I'm just giving you her explanation. In her book, titled Talking with the Spirit, that's one of her books. And she's taken hundreds of people back into past, in between lives, plus past lives. That's what I mentioned it.
But this is wherein I believe what you're saying, and I agree with it, as long as we keep it in perspective. But some of these people go back and they get into contact with this, and then they actually believe they're Queen Elizabeth, for example. And they get themselves into a problem where they're believing a lie, and that blocks their progression from that time on. And we have to be very careful on that.
No, things like that don't worry me. But, I'm not into those things. So I just thought I'd mention because so many people brought it up. And that was just one explanation for this, having so many people claiming to be so-and-so, So they supposed to go on really through this full experience without being incarnate or incorporate.
Could well be. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Robert, sir, come on up. I hope I don't offend anybody by being really coming in strong on sticking into what is within a framework of reality and certainty. This will protect us from getting into areas that are very iffy and, can I use the word, airy-fairy. And in this day and age, we find so many people going off the deep end, believing things that are just simply not so. And if I get a little firm on that, it's because I have seen so many people mess their lives up so bad by believing things and going off half-cocked into something without any physical proof of it whatsoever. And this is where we have to pull in our horns a bit and prove all things and then hold fast that which we know to be true and which I will add within a framework of reality and certainty.
I'd just like to ask a question about this this scenario you set up before with all these past lives and one thing and another, where people are sort of off on their own with all this lot. Now then, there's a herb that will give you a near-death experience that's supposed to fix this. A herbal mixture that is supposed to fix this condition. It'll give you a near-death experience that doesn't last a few seconds like normal near-death experiences. It takes a few hours. I just wondered if you consider this might be worth using.
Did you understand? Okay.
He says there is a herb that gives you the experience of a near-death experience. And do you want to give this knowledge out.
There are psychedelic mushrooms, for example, that are used in the southern part of the United States that give you effects forced upon the body beyond a person's control, where they believe they're having a spiritual experience. LSD has been taken by many people where they have this phenomena effect upon them, where they believe they're having a spiritual experience. There are different herbal formulations in the Polynesian islands that you can sit down and you have all kinds of these phenomena take place in your mind, and you think you're having a spiritual experience. That you can go into a sweat lodge and roast yourself at about 180 degrees, and you believe Fahrenheit, and you believe that you're having spiritual experiences when basically you're forcing the body into a state of hallucinatory effect. Now, my comment here would be there are many things which will open up the holes. There are many things which open up the holes in the auric field. And a person will have what appears to be a spiritual experience or a phenomena. And people get hooked on these so-called spiritual experiences, which we can call phenomena, when in reality it has nothing to do with the spiritual experience. It has everything to do with the things which are here called the astral realm. And these things can give you the counterfeit for truth, because they appear to be something which they are not. And here's where you have to take a good close look, because the only true spiritual experiences will come by a mastery of the mental body and putting that into perfect harmony with the God presence, or God's self, or Great Spirit, call it what you like. Now this is where a true spiritual experience comes from. But it doesn't come from a psychedelic trip, which a lot of drugs, a lot of tailor-made synthetic drugs, a lot of marijuana will do it to you. And a lot of people have had a lot of trips on marijuana and have lost the plot because they believe they've had a spiritual experience, when in reality the holes in the auric field are opened up and they have a good case of possession. And there's a lot of possession going around because people have violated natural laws and have left themselves open to be wafted back and forth like a leaf in the wind by the astral realm, where they're given all sorts of spiritual experiences, which is the counterfeit for truth, and we get wrapped up in all that. But there is no herb which will give you a spiritual experience. There are herbs which will give you psychedelic effects and open up your auric field, which you might call your awareness, so that you can have all of the wonderful gifts from the astral realm you want. But it's not going to be a spiritual experience. I hope I made that clear. This is something I know a little bit about. Okay.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question too, John. The thing is, this is a question about how perhaps we get these ideas. Is Dr. Deepak Chopra's theory. Bring it right up here. Dr. Deepak Chopra's theory, saying about the hologram theory, and that we are breathing all the time cells that were in Jesus and cells that were in everyone else. Would this give us then an idea that we were these people, perhaps? Could that be an explanation of why we do that?
It gives us a false impression that we were these people, even though we are experiencing the energies of those people.
Right. So that's probably what they're getting, not that they've been that person at all.
They are maybe experiencing what that person experienced, but they were not that person at all. And here is where deception occurs, and here's where we've lost the plot and we get off the rails quickly.
Well, I agree with you. I always feel it's very, very dangerous for people to go all the time when they're wanting to make a decision to a psychic and ask them, because very often when they're getting the information, it's the information for that person, it isn't for the other one, and then the power of the mind makes them do these things, makes them happen. And I think it's a very dangerous area.
Very dangerous. Yet some psychics have the most amazing capacity to experience the energy field of that person and read them just like a book. Some people have that gift, and there's no question about it. And so we have to put these things in perspective and understand that. Rachel.
I'm really interested in this counterfeit for truth business. And did you say that don't judge on spiritual truths alone? Is that what you said?
That's correct. See, even a prophecy, which may be true, is not set in concrete. If the consciousness of man changes, then that prophecy will not happen.
The difficulty I have with it is that I'd be hesitant to discount my own... the question is, how do you know? How do you know the truth? And I myself would be really hesitant to discount my own inner knowing or the truth of my God self, when in the physical world things are often not as they seem, and they are often manipulated by my own reactive patterns, and it may be a perpetuation of truth that I'm actually trying to mould myself, rather than something that may be just a spiritual truth but maybe a lot more pure than that which appears to be so in the physical world.
If I may say this gently, and this refers to myself, and as far as other people are concerned, oftentimes our spiritual revelations are because we've had too many pickles the night before. And, I hope you understand this. And consequently, hindsight is always 20/20. And we can look back on history and then realize what has been true and what hasn't been. Yet I would be very wise, if you have what you think is a spiritual experience, to put it on the shelf, watch it very carefully, and if it happens, then you know that you had a spiritual experience. If it didn't happen, you know that consciousness may have changed, and you still may have had a spiritual experience. If it's going to happen, then you can prevent it from happening by taking a sidestep where it's appropriate. And so here's where how do you know? Oftentimes you wait carefully and look carefully, and don't jump off a bridge because some voice tells you to jump off a bridge. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we have to use our own discernment. We have to work within a framework of reality and certainty, and says, is this logical according to the understanding we have today?
My point is that often that understanding is so manipulated by our own subjective reactive patterns and crystals.
Absolutely. And this gets us into a dangerous pattern.
So therefore somehow the clearer essence of our God self has to come through, even while we may not jump off the bridge when they tell us to.
That's right.
It has to come into play with the stuff that may well just be our own reactive patterns.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now here's wherein, thank you. Here's wherein we have to be exceedingly careful of this. I think we've stressed that and stressed that and stressed that. I think we've done enough on that one. Other comments? Yes, sir. Herbert. Yeah. Did you bring your father with you today?
I had a past life experience through point holding. Do you open up your auric field when you go into the past life?
It can happen.
Thank you.
There again, be cautious. And don't swallow everything like a pill, okay? We have to be very gentle and very careful with ourselves, and very slow to put things together into a hologramic pattern which we know is within that framework of reality and certainty. Every one of us have had experiences. But once again, we're here now in this body, and this is where the action is. You take too much wheatgrass, my friend, and you're back in that astral realm in a hurry. Really? Continue on, sir.
We have a lady here.
Thank you. It's not a question, actually. It's just a comment. In the 1991 flood up in Rockhampton, my yard was this far underwater, and after the water went down, there was all these hundreds and hundreds of little gold-top mushrooms came up, and I went out and I was stamping on them and kicking them out and having a ball, and somebody told me, "Geez, you're an idiot. You could have got thousands of dollars for that." And I didn't feel the least bit guilty. I felt fabulous.
Every time I have a list of things to cover at one of these things, you know, one starts partially and then it goes off for about 3 hours. What am I doing?
I ask myself that sometimes also.
I wanted to let people know about an oxygen that I found that seems to muscle test fine. It's called Oxy-Rich. And it's just up here if anyone wants to look at the bottle. There is a local distributor for it. If you'd want to take down his phone number, I'll give it to you. His name's Tony. And the phone number is 018 787 033. Yeah. Oxy-Rich? The very hang on. Have you been using Naclo or Oxy-Rich? Who's been? Hydrogen peroxide? This is very interesting because the reason I'm telling you about this is that all the people who cannot stand taking Naclo because it tastes like bleach are taking Oxy-Rich and they're doing just fine. So I'm now completely confused. Well, just about. You smell Naclo and it'll blow your head off. It doesn't smell at all to you. Huh. All right. Well, you have an option now. We have two completely backwards points of views here. Have you taken Naclo? Have you taken Naclo?
We'll put that on the shelf.
File that away. Anyway, here's a fella. Here's two. That's a mobile.
Thanks, John, I hope I'm up here saying the right kind of things, because this might sound like advertising and I don't want that to come through, but I have been having oxygen, stabilised oxygen, manufactured for a number of years now, and it has proved very successful out in the market, and it doesn't taste like bleach. So if other people are interested, but I'm not out here making a sales pitch. I don't want that to come through.
You have an address and a phone number, sir?
Okay, if people, yes. I can put that down. Anyone can see me later and I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Great.
Okay. Our product is called Oxy 2500. Oxy 2500. And if you do want to see me later, I can certainly talk with you about it. I have no doubt that it's a quality product, and we have been dealing with it for quite some time. I have it available, and at my address is Osmo Sales, Mail Service 623, Warwick, Queensland 4370. 4370. Yes, 076 61 3814. Phone and fax. 076 61 3814. Okay. Yeah. Our trading name is Osmo Sales, and our address is Mail Service 623, Warwick, Queensland, area code 4370. Phone number 076 61 3814. Oh, sorry, I think there's a new number came in this week. Dorothy, there's an extra digit, isn't there? Pardon? 074 6. Sorry. We better get this one straight. Phone number 074 6 61 3814. Okay, an extra 4 in the front end there. And it goes without saying, if you mention that you have been to the conference here, you will get it at the price that agents would normally get it for. Our prices range from $12 in the mail for a 60 ml through to, for people at this conference, it would be $50 for a full litre through the mail. Okay.
Thank you, Lionel.
For those people who don't mind the bleach taste, you can buy hydrogen peroxide for about $18 for 500 millilitres at certain pharmacies.
Thank you.
There is a little... something has to be said about that. No, you have to be very careful with it because it has additives. And some, you know...
Listen up here. This is actual fact.
You have to
and
be
there's problems here.
You have to be very careful with this because if you look in a lot of pharmacies, at least around here, there's no food grade available. And the concentration is totally irrelevant because you can burn your tongue off, you know. And that's the real... You have to be very careful with that. There's a number of factors to consider with hydrogen peroxide.
I was basically going to say much the same thing that Kyla said. We are able to handle hydrogen peroxide too, but once again the additives in the peroxide that you get at the chemists are basically carcinogenic compounds. So you need to get the food grade, which is 35%, and it's a very dangerous product to handle. So the stabilised oxygens are a much safer product and certainly should taste a lot better than the peroxide.
Thank you.
There was, just on this point, there's a fella, he gave me the facts, I've forgotten who it was or where I put it. It's called Super Oxy. Who are you? Where is he? He's not here. Oh. Emma's fella, isn't he? Yeah, well anyway, he knows about one called Super Oxy, which also is about triple strength, and he wanted me just to mention it, and I've misplaced it.
The metaphysical stuff is still playing on my mind, so I'm quite happy for it to wait till this is done with. But John, just following up with when you say don't judge by spiritual experience alone, how does that fit with what you were saying the other day, that sometimes believing is seeing. Do you remember when we were talking about that? So I'm just I know there's no easy answers, but I'd just be very interested to know what anyone feels, because sometimes believing is seeing.
I had an experience in the United States, and I had a number of different, very prominent psychics come to me. Several of them are telling me that I was assured I was going to die by such and such a time. And I was very grateful for their inspiration. And that they were assured that I was going to die, and they wanted me to make the necessary preparations so that I would die in a very peaceful, wonderful manner. If anything in the world could have happened to me that stimulated me to live, it was that particular event. And if I had allowed myself to fall into the trap to believe what these prominent psychics were to say to me, and they spread it far and wide that I would definitely die. They told everybody this, and it had a little effect on me. The answer is no, it's not my time yet. Now, what I'm going to say here is that if you buy into something that somebody tells you that may come from a feeling or too many pickles or whatever, or a tarot card reading where there's a slip of the hand or three, and if this is so happening, I will tell you, don't buy into these things, even though there may be a bit of validity because of the energies that are there, which are reflected in the tea leaves or the tarot cards or flipping a coin or the I Ching, and sometimes the I Ching is much favorable to the others. Anyway, I Ching. Anyway, these are things which are within the realm of speculation. You have mastery over your own life. And you even may have different experiences come to you, with voices telling you this and voices telling you that. Don't be too quick to jump into the phenomena of the thing and say, this is coming from God. Chances are very good, if it's coming from God, you get kicked in the rear end about 3 times if you don't behave. And that you'll be literally pushed to a point where you know that this is what you must do. But be careful not to judge on spiritual evidences alone, because many people will have varying ideas as to what ought to be done. Spiritual experience, like the pendulum. You'll have 10 different diagnoses on 10 different people, and they will all vary from one another as to what the diagnosis is and what the cure shall be. These are spiritual evidence, and some people put their lock, stock, and life in the results of what they consider to be the pendulum. The Ouija board would be put in a more definite category, where you leave yourself wide open to guidance from some being that takes you over. And I've known a lot of people who've gotten into trouble on Ouija boards. That's another phenomena, or what somebody would call a spiritual evidence. Be careful. That's all I ask you to do. And be skeptical. And don't judge on spiritual evidence alone. Palase. Excuse me just a minute. Palase first.
When you say on the pendulum on spirituality, because this is my experience, I'm telling you, what your mind tells, this is a boy or this is a girl, when in the pregnant, they want to know.
I'm 50% accurate on that. I want you to know that.
So what you say is a boy, then he comes, you believe he's a boy. And if you say he's sick and this is a disease and you say this is a treatment, it is what your mind is telling to the pendulum. It's not what you're receiving in spirituality. That's my experience.
Thank you, sir. Helena.
Oh, it's just a phone number. Yeah. Okay, this is just a phone number. I notice a lot of few people are already getting products from this company. They're very reputable and the products are very good quality. They have a stabilised oxygen product. It's safe at Burleigh Heads. I believe quite a few of you that I've been talking to have been using the green barley powder, which is dried at room temperature or body temperature, whatever. So here's the number. It's 07 55 93 45 66. Okay, that's safe at Burley Heads. Yeah, there's a lot of very good products. They also have a rock dust, but I haven't looked into that. Thanks. Okay, 07 55 93 45 66. And the stabilised oxygen is a lot stronger than the Neclo. It has no taste whatsoever, and so you don't need as much, so it's quite good value. Thank you. It's SAFE, S-A-F-E. That's the name of that's the name of the company.
John, I couldn't agree with you more about all the things you were saying about those spiritual practices. In a philosophical kind of way, I guess what I was asking you is, what kinds of areas then, and in what kinds of instances, would you advocate that believing is seeing? That you don't always have to see to believe, but sometimes believing makes the seeing. Do you see what I'm saying?
Did you read book one of Logic and Sequence?
Not yet. I knew you'd get it. Not yet.
Thank you. You read book one of the Logic and Sequence series, it's just as clear as mud in there for most people. Study it carefully. It's there. The information is there. And the answer to that in great detail would be there for Yagi.
Just a couple of really quick ones, John. That machine you spoke about, yes there is. That's your belief. That machine that you said can read people's own resistance, is it possible that we can make one ourselves, or is it just an ordinary ohm meter?
I'll talk to you later on that.
That'd be great.
Fair enough.
And the second one is that what John is trying to say to us is that when we change our consciousness, right, it changes us. So it doesn't matter what you think is going to happen. It's when you change your consciousness, you change your belief systems, therefore it changes your patterns of your life.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to get everyone have a seat, please. Please, I want to get something else answered. This is about 15 different pieces of paper with questions on it, all the way from electroacupuncture and all the way through electronic equipment, all the way through medical, shall we say, electronic gadgets. And I want to talk to you for a few moments, and this has been my findings. If you take any type of electronic equipment and you have an overriding influence upon the cells of the body, what you are doing here is so important because you are only approximating what I will call the composite wave of energies which are within the cell structure itself. Now you can take, for example, a square wave generator or a zapper or one thing or another, and you can hook that up to the body and you can override the energies in the cells. Does it work? Yes, you'll have certain effects. You can take extremely low frequency devices and you can override the cells of the body to where you can make a person act any way you want them to act at the cell level, creating disease or creating wellness on the physical level. Can you create on the physical body a condition on the cell level where you can get rid of scar tissue? There are machines that do this beautifully, and the answer is yes. But you still have an overriding, can I use the word entrainment of the cells, so that they will respond to the overriding or entraining energy pattern which is inflicted upon the body. Now this is all happening. You have every type of device in the world that people can have wonderful results with to take away pain, to take away scar tissue, to do this, do that, regrow teeth, regrow hair. Look, it's all out there. And many of these things work beautifully on a physical level. But if you're taking a pain away from a person by overriding the pain that is recorded at the cellular level, are you having the person experience on the emotional level or the mental level the pain that has been inflicted to cause the problem in the first place? No. It's been my findings that it takes from 3 to 6 months to get rid of nearly all of this overriding influence on the body through body electronics, so that which has been suppressed by this electronic equipment to take away the pain, you bring a person back to the point where they can re-experience the pain, re-experience it up on the mental level, and then eventually release that suppressed trauma so the body will heal. Now, this is a very important thing. Now, again, you have people having all kinds of gadgetry out there that are supposed to work miracles, and yet there is no scientific evidence at all to support it. Don't be gullible. And don't think that you have a magical cure-all that'll take the place of experiencing the traumas that have been suppressed below the level of consciousness. Don't think that just because you're changing the physical body, which you can, that you're having consciousness change. Don't think that just because you have a feeling of well-being temporarily, that you have consciousness change. Consciousness change comes after you have gone through that burning fire of the Kundalini, which I believe nearly everyone here has. You've had that experience, you're on the way. And then you get in touch with the mental body and your memories begin to come back. And many of you are in that boat also. You're on the roadway. The body's starting to regenerate. The hair's starting to come back in. Natural color. You can see people's bodies straightening out. The calcification's dissolving. Can you do that with electronic equipment also? Yes, you can. Can you get rid of kidney stones by exposing them to certain types of frequencies? You sure can. And what I'm trying to say is, for every truth on one hand, you'll have a counterfeit for truth on the other. Don't get taken in by all these promises from different people that this will take the place of body electronics. Now, this is what's happening here to among many, many people in Australia, in New Zealand, and the United States, where they say you don't have to go through the pain. Just use this piece of equipment, zap yourself every night and every morning for 20 minutes, and you'll have no pain in your body whatsoever, and you never have to experience pain again, and this takes the place of body electronics. Don't get taken in by this type of deceptive concepts.
In some way, you're doing yourself a disservice, because it's like you're putting yourself on hold, and because the symptom has gone, so therefore you believe you don't have to change your consciousness in that area, which is untrue. You haven't worked through the consciousness change. You're just delaying facing the truths, and delaying facing the actual work you have to do to get the consciousness change.
Now, you'll say, John, you're an absolute hypocrite, because I have some people that are just covered with scar tissue. And I've said, use this type of equipment that's been developed in Japan, and this will help that scar tissue to be resolved by using a non-invasive milliwatt type energy, and the scar tissue gradually disappears. And the pain will be gone. But what I tell them is don't forget a good nutritional program and get your point still. It might take 3 to 6 months to get that electronic override over the situation, and a person will have a healing crisis on that situation. But perhaps they're not in a position now to wait 5 to 10 years to get all that scar tissue taken care of. Do you follow what I'm saying? And so there is some sort of a cosmetic situation here which may be valid. A person's teeth are all bad, and so they wait 10 years trying to get their teeth fixed up with body electronics. In my eyes, that may not be practical. So go in and get your titanium implants and get some teeth there so you can chew your food properly. Or have your teeth out, rather than trying to solve these root canal problems where in 99 times out of 100, you're going to have root canal problems a year from now or 2 years from now, and it could get a lot worse because the abscess in that bone structure could grow without you feeling it. There's a problem there. So there's a practical side to all this also. And you're going to have to discern and realize that you can do one thing on one hand and then clean up the side effects on the other hand. And you might say, well, that's hypocritical. Perhaps. But everything has its time, place, and purpose. But my golly, learn what you're dealing with and be willing to take the consequences of what you're dealing with, and don't get sucked into so many false claims and false advertising, which is sucking so many people into buying thousands of dollars for something that doesn't work. Be very careful, because I have never seen more gimmicks out there to suck in people's money, and then people are left sitting there with a gadget that's supposed to tune up their brain regularly, and supposed to change their consciousness. Nonsense. You can't get to the mental body, or what we call the inner essence, by any type of a mechanical device or an electronic device which will manipulate from the outside in. You can't do it. And so I hope this answers those many questions on this particular subject.
I would just like to say one more thing. In the binders that were sent out with the tapes, there are some advertising products in there that have been sent out by Global Vision and that have never really been a part of body electronics.
Oh, yeah. So there's some things here, they're just not a part of body electronics.
The purple plates and the power, those power modulator things. And these were mixed in with the body electronics packs. And I would just like to clarify that now, that it was not a part, John and I were not consulted on that, and it was put into your binders.
Now, some people are using them and believe in them. Right. Do people have the right to use these things and believe in them? You bet they do. But let's keep body electronics pure, and let's keep things out of body electronics that are not body electronics. We're talking about wheatgrass. This is a nutrient material. But there are different types of nutrient materials, all valid. Is that fair enough? But anything which is not body electronics, let's keep things separate and be very, very careful on these matters. Is that fair enough? Yes, sir. Terry.
A very quick one in defence of the pendulum and the dowsing rod. A comment was made here that the pendulum and the dowsing rod reflect you. You move them. You're darn tootin' you do. They're not moved by secret psychic forces. These things are indicators from the inside out. And if they exactly that, John, and if they're used properly, and I mean properly, if I could come back and clarify that, our brain and wherever our higher self are very, very capable instruments. You look at a bird, it's got a brain like a pea, and it can navigate itself round the world. It winters in the northern hemisphere and come back to the southern hemisphere to breed. It's got a brain like a pea. How much more can we do with our brains? And so, we have this ability. Now, the big problem is to get to the primitive brain that can do this through all the layers of advertising and things that have been put in it. And this is the important thing. These are tools if you know how to use them. Now, quite often, and this is your experience, John, is you get all sorts of results because the primitive brain is clouded with all sorts of preconceptions. And the way of doing this, if you can, and it's not easy, I don't claim it's easy, but these things, remember, they are just signalling devices until you come to one with the ability of, not having to go outside your body to find out things. But please, they are nowhere near as bad as they're heralded. They do reflect, you do it. Your body does this, and you can soon find that I can use a pendulum and get it to do what I want. But if I hang it on a hook and stand back and tell it to do things, it just sits there and looks at me. So,
Terry, I'd like to state this one thing here on the dowsing technology. Have you ever taken a willow stick in your hand, a willow Y, and then go out and dowsing water?
Yes.
Yes, and he can do this. Many people in here can do that. That's dowsing. And it works. But here again, you get off into the realm of yes, no, right, wrong, this and that sort of thing. Here's where you get into la-la land and you get yourself into a lot of trouble if you start dowsing on those things. Because the Apostle Paul says, we see through a glass darkly. And because of that darkness that exists in our own mind, this clouds our ability to perceive properly and to project properly.
I'll agree with this because it's clouding the primitive mind, which has this ability. Yes, sure, we were talking about the same thing.
Yes, sir.
I have the example of this, and everyone knows that I've had arthritis in the past, and someone came up to me when I was at one of the seminars, and they had the dowsing rods, and they said that I had osteoporosis. Now, to tell somebody who has just gone through arthritis that they have osteoporosis is really lighting a torch. I mean, it's the last thing on earth you want to hear. So, okay, I said, all right. So I went down to a medical clinic in New Zealand, and I went and I took a test.
Thorough test.
A thorough test. I said, someone has told me I've osteoporosis. I want to know the facts on this. And they did a test on me, and they told me, and they showed me the statistics because they did it on actual machines. They said even if you were 80 years old, you wouldn't get osteoporosis. And this is where these dowsing rods and all these things, yes, I can understand if you're looking for oil or water or maybe things with the earth, but when it comes to these other subjects, you really cannot just accept what these people say.
I appreciate that.
And if anybody wants to see that test, I can mail it to you and show it to you.
Tom. Okay, one more person. I'd like Tom to have the next comment and Kyle to have the closing comments.
John, I've got some questions, just a couple of quick ones that may interest people. You get the natural shell essence. Now, if you put natural shell essence, shell essence, yes. So it's natural shell, yes, essence. Now, put it in cakes or food or drinks, stop people's cravings for bad things for the body, like drugs and fatty foods. Now, or even alcohol. Now, if we do with this? Are we going beyond our role of good intent? Or is there some way that we can give them a gentle push?
If we give a person a homeopathic remedy to help to solve a problem, or if we give them a Bach flower remedy to help them with their emotions to calm them, what's the intent? To help them out temporarily, right? And I see nothing wrong with this, provided it does what we say it does. But again, it gives a person a reprieve temporarily before we go back in and start working on the problem at hand. It's like giving a person a sleeping pill, somebody who cannot sleep. They have to have sleep in order to gain their strength. And then you continue on with the battle after they've recovered from and after a few good nights of good sleep. Everything has a proper time, place, and purpose.
Just one more question. Now, this may happen to a lot of people out there, as with myself, with family and friends that are on drugs and they're having trouble facing reality. Now, well, it's actually dealing with the now, isn't it? Now, how can you start to give these people direction, or do you have to wait for them to get the truths to come to themselves?
This is what I have told people. If you're bothering with other people's business, then you're not minding your own. Now, my suggestion would be, physician, heal thyself. And each one of us need to take care of ourselves first. And then as our light begins to shine out of the darkness that we were stuck in for many years, then people start to come to us individually where we can be of service to them. But if we go out and try to help everybody without helping ourselves first, we die on the vine in the process, and that's not wise. We have to take care of ourselves first and get ourselves in good condition and help those people gradually as we are capable. But you might think this is a terrible situation. I will not walk across the street to help somebody unless they ask me. And even then I'll be reluctant, because many times I've gone to help somebody, like in a argument between a man and a wife, and you get in there and both of them turn on you and kick you right out of the house when you voice the least little bit of helpful advice, just simply learn to love one another. So I'm reluctant, even if I'm asked, until I feel a warm feeling in here that this is right. And then thus I live by the dictates of my conscience. And I don't allow other people to whip me around to do what they want me to do when they think I ought to do it. I have to feel right about it in here. And I advise each of you to do likewise. Otherwise, we're a leaf in the wind, and we have no stability of our own. We have to come from our own inner strength to do what we know we can do and should do within the limits of our ability. Does that answer your question, Tom? Okay.
I only have 2 topics left. One of them is a lifetime study, and in order to do anything useful, we have to create a very meditative, sort of introspective atmosphere. So I think I can just give up on that one completely. That's breathing. The other one's a topic most people are completely afraid to touch, and there's only about 3 years of research that you would have to read to come to an informed opinion. And you have sometimes people studying this for 20 or 30 years collecting evidence. But I want to mention it so that you begin to be aware that there is a set of issues to think about. Not everyone's a parent, so not everybody thinks about it. But I want to talk about vaccination. I don't want to talk about it very much. All I want you to know is that if you believe that we should have freedom of choice with regards to how we bring up our children, if you believe that, then you may want to get informed on this topic and become aware of the legal forces that are in action currently in this country and participate constructively once you've become informed. There's evidence, that people quote in both directions, and we can say so much about this. We could talk about it for 2 days, and all that would happen is it's just a confused mess, because unless you sit down and just read, and once you get through about a foot of reading, then you might know something. But you have to go back through all the different countries and all the different authors and just read and then come to an informed decision. And then participate responsibly within the legal structure of the country that we're choosing to exist in. Well, I can tell you that every day I shouldn't say every day, every week, minimum every month, I have people coming to me talking about their child's never been the same since they were vaccinated. He's got this and this and this and this now, and he was just never like that before. And I have people ring me up on the phone, what can I've tried everything. My child just got epilepsy, 3 hours after his vaccination, and this type of thing. Now, I see this, and I have to face it. Now, regardless of the rigidity and the crystallization of your own viewpoint on the matter, just go and read about it and get informed, because these things are happening, and I believe people may be being damaged. And it's difficult, to repair this type of thing sometimes. Now what I have here is I only have 2 sheets. All I wanted to do is give you access to the information so you can begin to study. You should only have about 5 years of research to do after this. But I only have 16 of them. Can we get more copied off? This is a membership form for what's called the Australian Vaccination Network. And they have a library now of materials and case histories that are getting documented so that people can read about what is happening. Well, see, I have the forms here. I want everybody to have a form. Can we organize that? Okay, well, I only have 16, but is everybody interested in getting informed in this? Because I don't want to waste my time photocopying these off. All right, well, see, this is the local one. Okay, the local one, the phone number is 55. 07 is this area, and then 55 306 625. Lynn's going to like me. She's going to get 100 phone calls. But the address is P.O. Box 153, Mudgeeraba, MUDGEERABA, Queensland 4213. Now, there's been a great difficulty getting accurate statistics on vaccination. I know one lady, she just had a child vaccinated, ended up afterwards a full-blown epileptic. Never had a thing wrong with him before. Had the triple antigen. Now, she could not get the doctor to acknowledge in any way, shape, or form. Nobody would acknowledge that this epilepsy had come on, that it was not a previous condition, that it had come on after the vaccination, immediately after, and been there ever since. She eventually, after trying every medical route in this country, flew to England and went to the top specialist there who's been researching this throughout the world. And he did his full assessment there and gave an official report, and they took it back. and presented it. Now, they had to spend several $1,000s on this project. And they brought it back and presented it to the medical board, and they finally said, yeah, all right, well, this was a case of vaccine damage. We admit that. But the thing is that's not documented anywhere. There are no records of that, and when people go to assess the records, and they'll say, well, there's only X number of people damaged by whatever vaccine or so-and-so, you know, the record does not exist. They're not collated, and there's no independent party that are responsibly formulating these things. Now, there is a petition, which I haven't bought, but I'll bring it tomorrow and pass it around if anyone wants to sign it. It's a very reasonable petition. It basically says that accurate statistics should be recorded in this matter, and that various measures should be implemented in the system, and a group created to actually document all of this material so that accurate statistics can be made available to people, that their decisions may be more informed. Because at the moment there are no accurate statistics. That case of vaccine damage will not be recorded anywhere, and it will count for nothing, and it will never be mentioned, and no one will know about that situation, because that's the way the system is structured. The other way the system is structured is that if a child contracts a disease for which it has been vaccinated, there's no requirement to put onto the disease notification form that child was vaccinated for that disease, despite the fact that they got it. Knowing me, you know, I've met quite a few of these people too. And the thing is this happens quite regularly, on my experience, you know. And the thing is, that's not documented anywhere either. And so you can't make an informed decision when you're in the dark. And if the system leaves you in the dark, then you have to change the system. And so this is the focus of the petition. It's quite conservative, really. Now there's a book coming out. It's called Vaccination Roulette, with full of case histories and different things. The differences about it that I've been assured is coming out in January, and I have sheets here for that as well. But the Vaccination Network, it's the collection of everything in this country that's been pulled together now to give people a kind of more of an overview of what's really happening. The thing is it's from Australia, I'm assured. I haven't read it because it's not out yet. It's out in January. But here's the notification of it, because most of the research that's been published, this is coming in from other countries. You know, the United States and Finland and Denmark, and it's all foreign research, but we don't have any because we haven't been able to get statistics in this country or accurate records. And so the Australian Vaccination Network has been formulating accurate records and send out sheets to all the different health practitioners within the organization, and they've been collecting all the case histories and putting them all together so people can actually see what other people are experiencing in connection with this practice. Does that sound reasonable? That's fair either way, regardless of your viewpoint. We should know what's happening. We should know what's happening.
Are you through there on that, sir?
Yeah. Now, does everyone want a copy of that? All
Come
right.
up here and grab it afterward.
Well, there's a few here, and I'll make some more.
Good. Now let's look at something here that I feel very strongly about suggesting, and now about vaccination. Now, you can trust organizations such as the World Health Organization. No. You can trust them to do what they're doing. No. The World Health Organization ran a series of studies at Fort Detrick, Maryland, and they took sheep visna and broke down the genetic material of sheep visna and bovine leukemia, and broke that down, genetic material, and rearranged it, and it became the AIDS virus. This has been proven conclusively. The AIDS virus was used as an inoculating agent to promote flu-like symptoms in 80 million Africans. One of my friends on the board of directors of the Rife Laboratories told me point blank that he was in charge of inoculating all of the people in Zaire that he could with the smallpox vaccination. He was told by his immediate superior that the smallpox vaccination that the people were entrusting the World Health Organization to inoculate them with was laced with a flu-like virus which was pigment-specific and would not affect people with white skin. So there's nothing to worry about. Only the black people would be affected by this flu-like virus. This flu-like virus happened to be AIDS. And this is wherein, with this flu-like virus, you have many people dying in Africa. You have whole societies and whole communities dead because of the onslaught of this AIDS virus. In the hospitals in many of the cities, you have 80 to 90% of the people who go in there to get checked up on blood tests who have already the AIDS virus. Are you hearing me? You have many industries that are where the industries are being crippled because you have people dying every week in these industries of the AIDS virus, and people are sick and they cannot do their work. And there is a crippling situation here to consider. Now, here you have 80 million people that were inoculated with this virus under the guise of having an inoculation for smallpox, under the direction of some harebrains in the World Health Organization. Are you aware that many people in the World Health Organization threw up their hands in disgust when they found out what was foisted upon them, with the idea of eliminating the population of Earth so there'd be about 10% of the population left by the year 2000? Now, this is one of the things that if you check into the literature, you'll find out that this is true. Now, are you going to trust the World Health Organization and on an inoculation program after their track record of killing millions of people and spreading the AIDS virus with the idea of genocide, of wiping out the black population of Africa? This is genocide, my friends. They've done it with the homosexual population of New Orleans, San Francisco, and up in one place up in New York City, where the homosexuals in New York City, 2,000 of them were inoculated with hepatitis B vaccine, laced with the AIDS virus. 2,000 people are dead now, and of course the thing has spread out from there in New York City to where the hospitals are overflowing with people. I have one medical doctor that explained to us that he says the people come in, they're checked up on a blood test and they have AIDS, and it's just about 90% of the people that come in. There's nothing they can do. They send them home with a few pills to help to relax them a little bit because there's no room left in the hospitals, and the hospitals are overflowing with sick people because of AIDS. In Los Angeles, there are 70 different strains of the AIDS virus now because of the mutating factor. This is 10 years ago when we got this information from our friends who are in the University of California working with virology. Now, we've got problems here that are amazing, and these things are continually mutating. Now, did you know that the AIDS virus will also mutate into an absolute harmless virus in the presence of unconditional love and unconditional forgiveness? Just consider that, my friends, because your energy that you create will cause the transmutation of these various illnesses where they'll have no effect upon you whatsoever. Now just consider that. So when we're talking here about inoculations, who do you trust? Now this is what I want you to look at. Now, does inoculations work? In some cases, perhaps. But on healthy people, the disease itself that the person recovers from is far less destructive to the body than the inoculation that the person receives to prevent it. Val?
I'd heard that they found an inoculation for breast cancer, so you can imagine what the drug companies are going to make out of inoculating every single woman for breast cancer, and what else are they going to put in it. And then they said then it would be for prostate, so they'd inoculate all the men for prostate. What are the drug companies going to make out of that?
Very good.
It's a great marketing thing, vaccination. You can sell it to everybody if you get it legal, you know?
Okay, one more person here, and then we'll close the issue on vaccination due to the element of time.
About AIDS in Africa, it's gone like wildfire because after these people were inoculated, and any time they go to the hospital for any kind of injection, they use, because of the poverty there, the same needle over and over and over and over again, thus assuring that many, many, many more people will die of AIDS.
Thank you very much. I hope that some of these things don't bother you too much. But there's what they call an awareness of things is giving the person then the proper tools to make the proper steps. And what are the proper steps? Learn how to meditate, learn how to love, and learn how to forgive. Because these things will continue. The more you resist it, the more you fight these things, the more they'll come upon you. So please keep that in mind. Kyle, continue on.
Well, I think I'm just about done. We'll close up on vaccination. There's a lot more that can be said, but we can do that all day.
Any final statements, sir?
Yeah, if anybody wants the book on the wheatgrass, somebody requested, the wheatgrass juice or 2 people requested, and the powder somebody requested, so I brought all them in. If you could see me right as soon as we break, just see me, and we'll just attend to that so I can pack things away in my car and take the juices back down, put them under lock and key, and so on.
Now, thank you very, very much for all of your patience regarding these matters. I think we've solved about 90% of the questions that were submitted to us by today's discussion. It's in the book. Okay, check with Jennifer, because it's in the book. We saw that. Thank you very much. Take about a half-hour break here. It's about 10 after 11. And then we go to the choral room. Hello. During a seminar such as this, oftentimes, as the days pass, the stragglers come in later and later and later and later, and such it is. Because they're trying to survive, they have to get a bite to eat, they have to just do what they can because of all the sweaty stuff on their body. How many of you have felt sticky and gooey after a seminar, after a point holding? You got to go and take a shower and clean your shirt, whatnot, change your shirt. You know what that sticky stuff is on the body? I didn't hear that. What? Negative energy or it's ectoplasm. And that's a sticky, gooey, dead stuff all over the tissues of the body. Because as the darkness leaves the body, it leaves the ectoplasmic material behind, and the body becomes just sticky and oftentimes gooey, and you have to go wash your hands several times, perhaps during a day. You have to go and take a shower because your body's covered with it. You have to change your clothes sometimes, and sometimes it's a real struggle because this ectoplasmic material is real. And you get that in all the point holding groups. And it's just something that I want you to be aware of. Now, everybody is making progress. Some a little slower than others. And that's fine, because the slowest is making progress hand over fist compared with what has transpired in the past. But I'd like to take the time today so that people will have a chance at this present time to share those things that are on their mind, on things that they have seen and experienced, which may be of a beneficial nature that everyone else might hear these things. So please feel free to share. Hang on a moment. Okay. Anita has some vaccination forms to fill out.
No, not to fill out.
I think they're to fill out here to become part of this organization. If you already have, put them right over here in the corner and people can pick them up afterwards.
If anybody didn't get them, we have extra.
Very good. But let's give everybody a chance to share. And Mary.
Coming up here, one of my greatest concerns was that having had a situation with my left knee, which ruptured the lateral meniscus, which is the side part of the cartilage, the knee itself wasn't all that painful, but because I refused an operation, the lower part of the leg kept going further and further and further out. So I ended up with a functionally shorter leg, which then ended twisting everything around, and it was very uncomfortable. And my family, which has a fair few doctors in it, kept insisting that I have an operation, and I kept refusing. They said, "You're 65, what do you expect?" And on the table, I had just at one point held by John, very, very ably. He was very, very steady on it. And the pain was simply excruciating. And I went through some memories of childhood, of different hatreds and things which I really and truly thought that I had long processed if I ever really felt them. But on the table I could really feel them. And it was just getting unbearable, absolutely unbearable after a while. And sort of in extremis I called out to God. And I'm not a churchy person at all. And I've never ever called with such desperation. And then things got a bit worse. And then I suddenly got in touch with the crucified Jesus Christ. Now again, I reiterate, I am definitely not a churchy person. And one of the things I couldn't do on the table is to move. And I was in a very awkward position, and I thought of him not being able to move because he was transfixed, and how painful it was to even move the slightest bit of a muscle. And this image came of offering up my pain, if that's at all possible, to correspondingly ease his pain at the time, in the ever-present now. Now I have no idea whether that really was so or not. But very shortly after I'd done this, the point went flat. And a few more minutes and it was all over. And I lay there and it was still very, very sore. And I wasn't sure if anything happened at all or not. And I kept saying, well, whatever, it doesn't matter, whatever. Then when I got up into my room, I still didn't know because it was still pretty sore. And I'd taken my trousers off to have a look how my legs actually look, because I couldn't tell what went on inside my knees. Because it wasn't just the cartilage. I've walked for about 4 years on bone, and it was pretty damaged in there. And I looked in the mirror, and I had 2 straight legs and a new knee.
Thank you, Mary. That's a beautiful, beautiful statement. When you're walking now, how's your pain in that knee? Where it was bone on bone?
No pain, just bruising.
Oh yes, you'll have a. Well, John was putting his full pressure on it. I mean, you can stand on your head on that thing, you know, and you can only put so much pressure on, right, John? But he put his full pressure on that and did the job. Now that's the type of pressure that you have to be willing to put on somebody if they're willing to have it happen. Now, Mary asked for it. I would not have done that personally. Now, I want you to understand me here. I would not have done that personally. Even if she asked for it, I would have questioned it, which I did. Until suddenly I realized there was a good chance she could handle it, and she did, but she went through the pain. But I would have gone back to just simple basic stuff and got all the hormones working, going down the program sheet, making sure everything was stabilized, gradually making sure we did the triple axis clavicle and the pubic bone points and the ischial tuberosity points and these other points to get things stabilized. I would have done that. But here's where we shotgunned and won. Now, this is a beautiful statement. Now, since we're talking about knees, have a man that would like to talk to you about his nephews.
Well, I suffer from osteoarthritis, and rather like Mary, I've had bone on bone with no cartilage. And today, what happened is I had 2 of the heaviest elbows I have ever met in my life, one on each knee, and I had the fire right up the legs into the hip joints, and I can walk now. I'm walking around quite happily, and appears I think I've got new life in my legs. The alternative, of course, was to let somebody chop me up and put artificial knees in. And of course they only have a limited life, about 14 years or so, 14 or 15 years. So what happens? You only get 1 set of these because they do so much damage they can't put the second set in. So what I had to do was to work out when I was going to die, come back 15 years to be on the safe side, and then I could go and get my tin knees in. So I've been saved that difficult calculation, and so I'm walking around, you know, like a spring chicken. I haven't dared run yet, but you might notice I will run if I say the wrong thing to Leonie and she takes to me. You'll probably see me hair off out the door. So I'm feeling great at the moment. Now I'm another satisfied customer.
Now Terry is another one who asked for it. But I don't believe that people know the tremendous pain that exists in those knees until they experience that pain. And Terry, would you let people know, I want you to come from your lips. Come up here, sir. I do feel you need to know this is no kid's game. Now, Mary told you her point of view. I want Terry, a big man here, big and strong, I want him to tell his point of view.
Well, in terms of the level of pain, one of the sweet little things with this is that you never quite get a good night's sleep. You'll always find some position where it hurts like hell and wakes you up. I think if you've had it, you'll know. And there's the general inability to do simple things. Just to bend down and knock a nail in is murder, you know, the movement. I mean, I can't even bend down like that, you know. I mean, I couldn't bend down like that. And simple things like digging the garden. Or alternatively, we live in Warwick. I occasionally go and give lectures down in Brisbane. 2-hour drive. At the end of that, I would be in tears just putting my feet on the ground from having them, you know, fairly immobile. Driving the car's okay, but it's the getting out. And it just goes on. There's so many silly little things that you can't do without excruciating pain. Sometimes you have a good day, and there isn't a great deal of pain, and then you move the wrong way, and oops, you remember you've got it again. And so, you know, it's... someone once said to me, you know, I know what it is, you prayed too much in your youth. That was wrong, but I think I might be doing a bit more praying in my old age, seeing how things work.
Hey, sir. When's the last time you did a deep knee bend? This is what I like to do, you know. If I fix a broken arm, you have them do some push-ups. When's the last time you did that?
Just then.
Just then. That's quick. That's quick.
But, you know, I mean, I couldn't even do that. Now, there you are. For a fat man, I can still touch your toes.
And how long has that been?
Oh, it's been years. So it's not the sort of thing I would dare try. You know? Here. I'm sorry, but just the mobility, and I mean, I haven't tried these things out. You know, I'm just so happy to walk around that, you know, I've got the walking and all the other things. There is one other activity which is really hard, and that's walking up and down stairs or slopes. And I'm dying to go down to afternoon tea. I'm going to walk down the stairs. And one at a time, rather than going shuffle, put, shuffle, put, shuffle, put, eh? Just the one at the moment. But, no, this is good. I'm very, very, you know, I'm so happy that this has happened. You know, we waited. It's interesting that, you know, I've been very, very busy holding points for people who are, you know, who needed it. And when my turn came, I got it back double because it was so good.
Thank you very much, sir. Anybody who wants to say something, the time is yours. Doc, come up here, please.
Well, I've had some amazing experiences this morning. The right leg of mine, which is was rather numb, has got all its feeling back again. The point holder that held my foot on the pancreas point this morning was absolutely stuck to the bottom of my foot. We had, she couldn't take her hands off, but we had 8 different waves of coldness come over the body. The foot lit up like the candles that you see all around the place, because that's how hot it was. And the gentleman holding my STO points also was receiving tremendous energy. But I was drifting between this world and somewhere else. I was seeing clouds of all different colours, deep blues, violets, yellows and white, all swirling around together. Then all of a sudden, from my right-hand side, a helmeted figure, just ahead, came and lodged on my shoulder. And immediately it lodged on my shoulder, my STO point holder said, "Oh my God, you know, my fingers are burning off." And so I said in my mind to this entity, "Hello, who are you?" And he had the visor down, and he lifted the visor, and I was able to look directly into his eyes, which are a deep, deep blue. And this thought came into my mind immediately, I've just come to help. And lo and behold, from that moment on, my body lit up all over. And my artificial legs started to get warm. I could feel my artificial leg, which of course naturally you can't feel a thing when your physical leg's gone, but my artificial leg got warm. Now that's amazing, and for the, nearly 2 hours that I was there on the table, the whole body got warmer and warmer, and my poor point holders really received a lashing of energy. And so anyway, everything finally cooled down, and I was able to get off the couch. Now, let me tell you, there's a trick in walking with an artificial leg. You have to put the heel down first to lock the knee, otherwise the leg collapses from you. And then you have to roll forward onto the toe to release the knee so you can take the step. Well now, about 6 weeks ago, I had a fall. My right heel caught in a wrinkle in a carpet in a restaurant, and I went straight down onto my left knee. Didn't feel a thing, of course, didn't hurt. But when I got up, I found that my left knee would not function correctly. It would not flick backwards and forwards the way I was used to. You've seen me walking around with a very stiff knee, and it's very awkward. The part that was damaged has to come from America, and they have to manufacture it. You know, all these things have held me up from replacing the part inside the knee. And so when I got off the couch and walked up towards the back of the room, I suddenly realised that my left knee wasn't sticking. How can this be? I mean, it's not a flesh and blood knee, it's a mechanical knee. But my damn knee is straightened and it's now flexible. As you see, I can now walk without the stick. A most astonishing experience, I can assure you. I should have mentioned also that I had tremendous pain in the knee that's not there. My leg was amputated above the knee, and it's been dead ever since, of course. I have had no feeling there. And I've had no phantom pains either. But boy, did I get them today. Oh. The instruction to lie still and not move really tested me to the limit. It really did. But whatever we did to that artificial knee was worthwhile. An artificial knee that fixes itself. Don't tell me how that happened.
It's like a bonding with something mechanical, you know, where it becomes a part of you, you know, and then, of course, it would manifest itself openly as you change your consciousness inwardly. Fair enough. Wonderful, Doc. Thank you.
On the yellow list, I'd just like to add my mobile number there if everyone would like to take that. I'm not sure how long that number there will last. I don't know how long this number here will last. It's 0411. Queensland, the last one. Gabby Gray. 0411 379 003. 0411 379 003. The person who has the picture of was it the Egyptian's point holding? Could I have that, please? Okay, thank you.
Is anyone else...
Thank you, Gabby.
Does anyone else need to make a correction on here? Can you please come up and do it over the mic? Please check your address and your phone on this yellow list, the point holding list, and if anybody else needs to make a correction, please come up and do so.
Yeah, it's Kevin Morris from Rowena it says Pi Menace, but it's actually Mick Menace.
Where is it?
Pi, see, it's got
Kevin Morris.
Pi Menace. It's actually Mick Menace, McManus. And the phone number is 07 3284 3404. 07 3284 3404. Everybody got that okay? No? Yes? Kevin Morris. In Queensland, the top one. McManus. Instead of PIE, it's MC.
Rowena McManus.
Yeah, that's it. Everybody got that okay now? Great. Thank you.
Okay. Phone number.
07 3284 3404. Or I have a mobile number. Does anybody want that? No? Fine.
New South Wales, Herbert Marshall. James Creek is also the area from Newcastle, so if anyone from Newcastle is interested
James Creek.
to build a group.
I've just come back in. Is this about point holding groups, is it?
Well, any corrections on the point holding
No,
group?
no corrections because I don't have one, but I can almost read it. And I said as a joke this morning to Carol, I really would love to throw away my glasses one day. But first I'd like to work on my endocrine system. So I've got period pain, and I picked this up, and I said to Rachel, how small is this print? Because I can see it. And believe me, I can't read a thing without my glasses these days. So it's early days, but I just had to share that because it's exciting.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. Any other comments, questions, or sharings? Yes, sir.
Even though I've still got my shaky arm, I will admit my back is perfect now after many years. I was hit with a bull 15 years ago and all of that back pain in the lower part of the back. And my knee that I rolled a log on is now perfect. That was done about 10 years ago, so it's only a matter of time before I get the shaky hand corrected.
When did that knee get corrected?
This morning.
Did somebody roost on that or something?
What, John?
Did somebody roost on your knee?
I rolled a log on it at the sawmill some years ago.
Yes, but did somebody hold a point on your knee?
No, no point held on.
Well, how did you do that?
I don't know.
What happened?
It'll bend now.
It couldn't bend before.
Oh, it'll bend with pain in it, but not now. That's all I know.
Okay, that's real good. What points were being held, sir?
There's a thoracic on the back of my neck.
Yes.
And the pancreas point on the right foot and the pituitary point I think that we're on. And the left leg started to get hotter. That's where the knee is. That's the crook side of the knee.
Yes.
Matter of fact, my left foot's still hot. That's all I can say.
Well, that's a beautiful surprise, Stan.
Yeah, I can stand that sort of surprise all right.
Thank you very much, sir. That's beautiful. Palasi.
Well, it's a joy to experience my own birth, which I experienced. I couldn't talk yesterday because I feel still like a little child. And this is why I come up today to experience the joy I had the day before. I was on the table, and then I can see inside my mother's womb. I was lying between the pelvis bone, which is quite big, I see, when I look at it. And all of a sudden, when I was coming out, I say, I'm stuck. That's what the first word came out, I think. So I couldn't move. I couldn't come out anymore. So they stopped pushing, and then they put a big instrument, big plate, I think, over my head. And they start climbing in, and it was so cold. And the pain was so much that I started moving my head. And as I came out, they were pulling me, and I could feel the pain, and I couldn't breathe. And although I feel that there's no more life, and my legs were getting cold and chill. And later, when I was out, I couldn't breathe as well. So what they did, they grabbed on my hand, on my leg, and turned me back, turned me upside down, and started whacking me. Actually, I could feel the pain. Even in the night, I could feel the pain of their beating. And then this is when I feel a little cry of the baby when they stopped breathing. And then what they did was, I feel like it's a suction. I think they're sucking my throat out. And then put me in, then I was ornament. But this morning, yesterday, when I woke up, I found the 5-finger marks on my both legs. All blue, black. Then I was what is this? Then I realized, this is where they hold on to my leg. And it has disappeared now today. Yesterday, there's still a bit of bluish mark of where the hole was. I think it's beautiful and joy to experience your own birth. And I was a child yesterday. That's why I feel a bit different yesterday. I was most of the time was sleepy, and when I was a holding point, I was having a lot of pain because I was lost, I think. As a baby, I doesn't know what to do. I was having all the pain on my body. And I was so tired yesterday. I think the whole week, yesterday I had a most beautiful sleep. I said, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
I don't mean to hog the floor, but I forgot quite an important detail about my eyes, that after my first point holding on the first day, I came out in an extremely unpleasant, itchy eyes, which wasn't nice. It went on. Interestingly enough, Sam did at the same time too. His eyes were quite swollen and mucousy and very itchy. And my eyes itched for about 2 days and then stopped. And then this morning, they just itched like crazy again before the point holding. I'll own up to something I'm guilty of quite a lot. I rubbed the hell out of them. So I shouldn't be able to see a thing. But I just thought I'd add that was actually a very unpleasant part, and that was obviously part of the healing crisis, that during that time my eyes were doing something that's beyond my state of knowledge. And I'm quite convinced that they are clearing and my sight is getting much better.
Would you like to share what's happening to the color of your eyes and the color of the eyes of your family?
But as much as I know about it, they're all lightening up, and they all started to lighten up like immediately, didn't they? I know that with Rachel and myself and Sam, there was like a honey colour, because we've all had very dark eyes, like a honey colour just appeared very early on. And, I've been told by people who know these things and look into your eyes with little lights that this is happening all the time. When I look in the mirror, and I didn't keep on looking at them all the time, I must say, but this morning I got up and looked in the mirror, and without my glasses actually, normally I can't see them properly, and I thought, my God, and then there's this kind of a bluey outline, if you like, or a round patch around the iris of my eye, which I can assure you is brand new. I have never had any colour in my eye other than dark brown. So it's all beyond me, but whatever, there it is.
Thank you. Still, time is yours. If you feel to share, now's the time to do it. Helena. There's a radiance.
Yeah, I know. I've been in pain since 1989. I had a big abseiling accident, and a very heavy person was hanging from my waist by a rope, and it was a very sharp fall, and was pulled forward like that, and I was sort of had my feet on the ground and trying to stop myself from being pulled over too. I was anchored to a tree, and anyway, as a result, I had a lot of disc injury to my lower back, and my pelvis became quite rotated, so the top half of my body was facing that way, and the lower half of my body was sort of off at an angle, so I was sort of like this all the time. And I just made the best of it, and my shoulder, one shoulder was lower than the other, and it gave me terrific, well, not terrific, but really big headaches all the time because it just affected my whole body. Well, yesterday, I couldn't talk about this yesterday, I was so overwhelmed. I had a 3-hour point holding with some incredible point holders on the ischial tuberosity on both sides, and went through this searing pain that just went on and on. It was incredible. And then I thought, well, the pain's gone, it's over. But Bill said to me, you still got some heat in the point there. And I said, yeah, but the pain in my lower back's gone. He said, no, there's still heat in there. Get into the memory. So then I went through another memory that had come later, a very painful childbirth when I had my son. And that must have been the one that did it, because suddenly my pelvis just had a mind of its own. And it was just like big hands were just moving it, and one part went up and one part went down, and I felt myself pushed into the table, and it was just moving all over the place. And I got up and I'm straight and I can move my shoulders back and my shoulders are level, and it's just affected my whole balance. And I don't feel now that I don't have to wear joggers just to stand straight. I've still got them on, but I'm going to get myself some new shoes now because my whole balance is altered, and it's just wonderful. So if you get pain on that point and the big one's gone, but there's still pain on the point, there's something else there. And just when I thought nothing was going to happen, the whole thing changed, and I just feel so different. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call upon Hank Brower from Sydney. And Hank, I'd like you to address this august body of people where in each case you'll notice that there's a brighter light shining in everyone here, in their countenance, and there's changes taking place, and everything is happening beautifully. So Hank, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, John. Yesterday morning, we were talking about the effects of the influences of the various energies in regards to the negative aspects that are coming through at times, who are in a manipulative process to help to influence us continuously to get us into a direction where we, perhaps from a different aspect within us, would not like to go to. However, from my understanding just bear with me for a moment, my heart is pounding. Because I feel that I'm starting to get into an area where I really like to express my experiences and feelings, because it's an area that's very close to my heart. And it deals with the law of non-interference. We continuously touch upon it in regards to the things we're going through, whether it's through our daily life experiences or something else, or anything else really. The way I understand it is that due to the negative aspects and the influences that come in, because of the belief systems behind it, they continuously like to, or attempt to, pass on that information to us, because that's the belief system behind it, that it is good for us. That is that belief system at that particular moment of that energy, whether it's a person that is fallen into the so-called trap of being influenced by somebody else through an experience they've had somewhere along the line. I've also seen this carry through within the healing method, and from my own experience where I became a therapist in various modalities, that wherever somebody came to me that I thought this is the way it is and this is what we need to do to bring about the changes, and that's where I was acting accordingly. Then, after having worked for about 18 months with an extension of the Kirlian photography, the bioplast system, I came in contact with body electronics. I was during a weekend in Auckland, and the last speaker of the weekend was Dr. John. And I can still see them walking in like a troop form. These people, there's 6 of them, right? 6 of you. They're walking in one after the other. And I said, oh, that looks odd. And Dr. John stood up and introduced himself, and one of the first statements Dr. John made was, we have had 100% success rate with full cell regrowth in mastectomy. Do you recall that? In mastectomy, with mastectomy. Yes. Yeah. And no sooner the words were said or the whole energy in the room dropped. It was like a brick, you could feel it. Hands shot up and said, what do you mean? You know, did the breast regrow? And as Dr. John said, as I just said, we had 100% success rate with full regrowth of all cells in mastectomy. And that was it. From there on, we were informed and given more background on body electronics. What I experienced at the time was like the opening up of the heart chakra, which I rarely experience, but for me it was a sign this is something you need to investigate. Because with the bioplast print, I had come to a conclusion that whatever I'd done in the past didn't seem to be working. Because my system was still so toxic, even after spending thousands and thousands of dollars on supplementation. And soon after that, I did the 3 weekend workshops, and during that, in the introductory weekends, all the pieces of the puzzle that I had, like I've been gathering over, 12 years, start to fall into place. One of the main things I learned during that process, and even carried on with that in the instructor's course, was that from a therapist we become a facilitator. And being a facilitator, it means that we become a vehicle to help to process, or to help with the process of the individual to become more in contact with themselves. And this for me has been the key to really getting involved with body electronics, because I was not a therapist anymore. I did not want to be a therapist, because whatever modality you go to, they say this is the best thing under the sun. This is what works. And then shortly after that you find out it doesn't quite work, they're telling you. And this is part of where we learn within the body electronics a reality that it will help us to balance, but it really doesn't get us to the nitty-gritty, to the core or the cause of our problems. And this is what I've seen over the years since I've been in body electronics, which is nearly 3 years now. I've seen people like yourself who have come into the body electronics, have had a really good understanding of it, and then start drifting away. Start doing other things again, which is okay as well. However, there is a very important aspect, and this is a message to you all, because one of the reasons I came to Sydney about 2 years ago was to work with a woman that I came across. I worked with her at Genesano in the instructor's course. And I was, due to circumstances, I came in to support her, to help her with an unfortunate circumstance that was created, maybe also for my benefit, to get me to come to Sydney. And she also was heavily involved in the body electronics process, and she decided to go into a different healing modality, which she did. About 3 weeks ago, she was advised that she had 2 months to live, because of the various aspects that she had decided to drop and go with this other healing modality. She had a lot of point holding, and we know that the repercussions of that can be rather disastrous from the physical point of view. So for me, it is to relay a message to you that for your own benefit, please keep continuing with this program, even if it's just to continue with the dietary program, especially with the protease, because that's a very, very important aspect of what we are dealing with. Coming back to the law of non-interference, it is very difficult to tell you what to do. I don't have the right to tell you what to do, no matter what it is, because it's your journey, just as like I have my journey, you have your journey. With a lot of common sense, though, and integrity and all the other aspects of our higher self, with the love aspect, we can look at things from a different point of view, as we have been exposed to in the past, and we can look at it through the eyes of the body electronic side. sometimes I get I lose track of where I'm going, but it comes back, somewhere along the line. It'll just deviate slightly, and then it'll come back again. But it is so important to continue that road, that what we've started on now, especially since we have seen so many things happening here this week that we have been here. And the reason why I came up here was to talk about the law of non-interference in respect to that whatever we do, whatever we project, whatever we go out with, please don't force it on anybody else other than when it comes out from that point of view that they start to ask for the information. I'm really losing my plot a bit because it's going quite not where I like to go. But just to sum it up briefly is that that wherever we go, wherever we come in, wherever we are, be aware of the pitfalls of the many things we've learned, especially this week. I think that will do. For now. Thanks.
Thank you, Hank.
I think, once you leave here, we're kind of like in a cocoon in here. And, once you leave here, you're going to be out in the real world again. And sometimes, there's a lot of battles to fight out there. And this is where you have to maintain that faith that I talked about yesterday. Despite all odds, you have to maintain that faith and stay focused. Stay focused on your commitment and intent. Okay? Because if you wake up in the morning and you're just going to leave the day to whatever happens, well, that's what's going to happen. You're going to be like a boat on the water, just kind of bouncing around. But you have to have commitment and intent. Make a connection with your God presence. Keep in contact with your God presence, because this is where you won't be led astray into these other areas, because when you are on this path, believe me, all the dark forces are there to stop you. And many of them are right inside of us. So keep focused, keep a good commitment and intent to your truth and good principles.
Thank you very much.
Just something I want to share with everyone here. There's someone very dear and very near to me right now dying of AIDS that we spoke about this morning. And 2 days ago, upsets me, but it's okay. 2 days ago, 3 other people sat down and prayed for him, because at that time his body was as stiff as a board in the hospice that he's in. His pain was enormous. He didn't want to see me because his pain was so enormous that he didn't feel that we could have an exchange. And the next day I made inquiries and there still wasn't any change. So I sat down and I asked for any entities that might be with him to be released and relieved and directed into the light. through those great beings of light. And last night I heard that the stiffness had gone out of his body, that the pain was gone out of his body, and I asked for his journey to be as gentle as possible, and that his release be as gentle as possible and as short as possible, not taking into consideration his karma and his real journey, because I know that pain, and I found at this seminar that pain served me very well indeed. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I'll see that sweet man very soon.
Thank you. I do have one personal apology to make. Now, I still feel very badly about it. because many of your ancestors have passed on in